Okay, do I see the participants? Okay.
Hmm. Just started. None have joined yet.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Okay then. So I guess we should start now. So hi guys, welcome to the second session of our Android study jams with Kotlin. This study jam has been organized by four DSCs together: DSC NMIT, DSC ADGITM, DSC IMSEC, and DSC NSSC. So together, we covered all the basics in the previous sessions, and today we are going to do a deep dive into Kotlin. We are going to explore how you can create some very good applications yourself, try to help yourself, and a brief introduction to Jetpack Compose, which is the reason that Kotlin these days is becoming more and more famous. So, as a guest today, I have Abhimanyu N with us. He's a senior developer at TCS, and he will introduce to us all the advanced concepts of Kotlin. So, hi Abhimanyu.
Yeah, hi everyone. So welcome to the session. So we look how we can learn Android. So first, the main topic I'll be covering is so as a beginner, as someone who wants to learn Android, we have a phase where we don't know what to learn and from where we can learn all these things. So that is the most difficult and important phase. So once you get to know like what are all the things you have to learn and like where you can refer them, so then the learning process is much more easy. So we'll start with that and then we'll go to see how like what are all the latest developments we have in Kotlin and Android as well. Okay. So I'm just
Sure.
sharing my screen. Okay. So hope my screen is visible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So first we'll look at some useful resources, tools, and places where you can refer and learn Android. So I have made a short list of things where you can learn yourself. So this will help someone who is in the beginning phase. Okay, so even for some intermediate level people, so there are some things which we might miss out. So we will not be aware of all the concepts in Android because Android is a very vast subject. So we will see what are all the places where we can refer, and there are a lot of official sources and good sources where we can refer and learn. So we'll see all that. So to begin with, we have some tools which will really help you in developing Android. Okay. So the first one, which is the most important one, is say IDE. So we have the official IDE as Android Studio. Hopefully, all of you should be aware of, and you must be using Android Studio. So I'm not going much into IDs. So we have Android Studio, which is the main ID for Android development. And if you want to make a small change in some file, you can always use VS Code because it's much more light. And then we have few more tools which are really useful. So if you're using some APIs, okay. So in that case, when you make a API call or when you make a post request, so you would like to get its parameters, the body and the result, and all these you would like to see, so that you can create all your class and code accordingly. So this is a sample API which is open. So this is the Postman app. Okay, so when you make a HTTP request, you can see that the request is being sent, and then you will be getting a response, and you will get the status code. So this tool is mostly for API related work. So you can see how API can be developed and learn a lot of features in Postman. So you can see Postman's docs and try to understand what Postman does. So as an Android developer, what you can do is most of the time we'll be working with API. So there is a API team who will be developing the API, and we will get the API endpoints and the base URL. So we have to hit the API and try to understand the data we have to pass and what we will be getting back. So that is something helpful when you use Postman. Okay. So next one is screen copy. So screen copy is a tool in GitHub. So I have just given all the links. Okay, so you can always refer this. So you can see your screen. Okay, so but I have connected a physical device, so I can see it in my monitor. So this is helpful. You don't have to always pick up the device and do all that work. So if you're going to do work in some app, so you can open this and all the work will be happening here. Okay. So you can see a screen completely in this. So next we have JSON view. So as I told, when you work with API, JSON is a very important format. So you get all the data in JSON view. So if you just copy paste it, you have objects where you can view these, and these are tools which will help you to improve your productivity. And then we have version control system. So again, it's a vast topic, so I'm not going much, but hopefully most of you should be aware of version control system. So it's a place, it's a tool where we can use multiple versions of a file, so it helps in collaboration. So we have version control system as the that we have a tool name is called Git, and we have a provider called GitHub who uses Git, and then you have a GitHub desktop application. So it is from official GitHub. So this helps you in making all the pull requests, commit, and you can see all these. So it is a GUI. If you are much comfortable in a GUI rather than a command line, you can use GitHub desktop. And then color picker is just like when you make a Google search for color picker, you will get something like this. So if you want to get some color hex codes, so I want to get this colors hex code. So I can just click here, and I can see all the RGB hex, all these values. So these are small tools which will help you. Okay. So moving on, we have documentation. Always documentation is the first source you have to refer when you want to learn something. So we have Android docs, Kotlin docs. You can refer all these. Then we have material design. So material design is basically the design used in Android. So how we have to create a view, like what are all the guidelines, what is the best practice, all are defined in a material design. Okay. So you can refer material design for creating, if you want to create a custom component, always it's good to know all the guidelines and what Google recommends. If you follow something Google recommends, it's much more easier because it is a universally adapted one. So everyone can easily understand what your app is going to do. So there are some set of icons which is universally adapted. So all these you can get from material design. And then code labs. So code labs we have already like we are already following some code labs. So code labs is provided by Google, and you can see how a sample concept can be implemented in a project. So that is a good thing from Google. Okay. And then we have courses. So if you are very comfortable, rather than reading, if you would like to see some videos and you're much comfortable in that, you can go for YouTube's Udacity, and these are all video sources. Okay. Some good sources is one is Udacity. So if you just go to Udacity and you can see a lot of things. So you can select the free, and then in the industry you can select Android or Android Studio and development and all. So you'll get all good sources. Okay. So there are around roughly 5 to 10 courses which are completely free. You don't have to pay anything, so you can learn from them. Okay. And then you have YouTube. So these are all official sources. You have Android developer. So one playlist which is very useful considering we are learning Kotlin is Kotlin Math Skills. So this is called Modern Android Development Skills. So this points out all the latest development work which is going on. So this is something you can follow. And then we have open source. So it is a GitHub link. So you can see all the open source which you can get from GitHub. There are a lot of things you can get from GitHub. Okay. This is a Android official Android's GitHub account. So you can see the camera sample, Android test sample. There are a lot of things going on here. And then there are some blogs, so you can refer to all this. And if you have any queries, whenever you are stuck at some point, you can always go to the community. So one best place where developers always go to is Stack Overflow, so you can go there. And if you would like to personally connect with me, you can ping me my LinkedIn account, so you can connect with me. So these are all some good sources which you can refer. So now you know where you can read all this. So what you have to read. So that is the next most important thing. There's a good article from MindDocs. So I have just given this link. It is the first link here. And if we go here, we can see the first thing which if you want to learn Android, so you should be good at some programming language. So you can either choose Java or Kotlin, but the preferred one I would say is you can start with Java, and then once you're comfortable with Java, you can move to Kotlin because a lot of concepts are much more easy in Java. And moving on to Kotlin, then you will see what is the difference between the abstraction and all. So that is very good. And then you need to be learning the IDE. So you have Android Studio as the official IDE. Then we have basic. So these are all basic stuff. We have Android components, syntax, user interface creation. So we have all this, and then how we can have dynamic interface. Then custom one. Then we have all these drawables, strings, resources, fragments. So they have a list of things which you need to know. So you have Gradle files, you have threading concept, how you can debug, so you can search each and everything. So we have memory leaks. Memory is one very important aspect. So if you have some crash, if you have some memory leak, these are all something which you have to improve in your app. So as a person who is learning, we might not be concentrating much on memory leaks and crashes and all. But when you go to a company and you do development as a full-time job, these are all very important aspects. So these are some things you have to take care, and like if you are learning it from the initial phase, it will be very easy when you start going and working. Okay. And there are a lot of good third-party libraries, so they have listed down some major ones. And our focus, which we are actually going to look, is Android Jetpack. So these are new modern concepts, and from Google. So we will be focusing on these concepts. So we'll see what is the advantage and what they are doing. And then the architecture. So we have different architecture. The recommended one by Google is MVVM, and you have Firebase, which is again from Google, and so keeps going on. Okay, so you can refer to this article and see how it goes. So I have just made a small repository so that you can refer later in case if you are not able to understand right now. So we'll start with a small app. So first, I will explain what we are going to develop. Then we will see how we can do it. So we are going to develop a simple counter app. Okay, so nothing much complicated. You have one text view, two buttons. When you click on increment, it should be incrementing. When you click on increment, it should be incrementing. When you click on decrement, it should be incrementing. So that's it. Nothing complex here. Okay. So we are going to see how Jetpack components can be incorporated in such a small app. And then we will see a Google sample, and we'll see how they have implemented. Okay. So we'll see a small repo, and then we'll see the full scale one. So this is the complete end project code. So I'll move to starter code, which you can refer from the repo I have provided. Okay, so number of files we have. We have one main activity, one layout file, and all the other files. Nothing much complex is there. It's all probably mostly the default files. Okay. So if you go to the layout file, we have constraint layout. We have one text view and two buttons. That's it. Nothing else. And so how we are doing is we have a count variable and we have a text view. So I'm getting a reference of text view. I'm having two click listeners, and I'm updating the count variable as well as the text view each time a button is clicked. So this is what is happening. So we'll see each concept one by one. So first concept we are going to focus on is, so this is a starter code. So you can refer to this branch and you will be getting the same code. The master branch is the final code. So you will be getting the complete Jetpack implemented one. So first concept we are going to look is view model. So how view models helps us to do so, like even this app is working perfectly fine. So why do I need to add view model? So first we have to understand what is the problem we are facing and why we should use the component. Okay. So I'm just running this app. This is the starter pack, and we'll see what is the problem we have with this app. Let's wait to get this to do this. Okay, so this is the app we have. So now I'm running the startup code. So let's see what is the problem we have here. So when I increment, it is working fine, and when I decrement, again it is working fine. I don't see any issue here. But then, if I rotate the app, so when I rotate my mobile device, the app is rotated. So the problem here is the count is reset. So if it is 5, and then if I'm again rotating it, the count returns back to 0. So this is a problem. So if you have a counter app, you definitely don't want to lose the count. So we have to save the count in such a way that even if the mobile is rotated, the value should be persistent somewhere. So we will see how we can do that. So the first part we are going to do is we are going to create a view model. Okay, so before we start implementing, we will add some dependencies so that we don't have to add each time. So there are a set of dependencies we have to add so that our new Jetpack components are working fine. Let's check all the dependencies we require. So we'll be seeing how to use data binding. So to enable data binding, we have to make a quick change. So we can copy all these dependencies from we need Kotlin. So this is a compiler for Kotlin. Let us restart and restart. Let me take a minute or two to restart. Sorry for this. Okay, so we'll see what a view model does. Okay, so if we just go to docs, we can see it is designed to store and manage UI-related data here, lifecycle conscious way. So when we say lifecycle conscious, the main advantage of using a view model is view model is aware of the life cycle, so it knows when your activity is resumed and when it is stopped. So these are all one very important aspects. Okay, for example, if you are using a camera app, you don't want the app to be running even when you switch the app to background. So it has two factors. One is privacy factor, so we don't want the camera app to be running when it is in background. The second factor is memory and the battery usage. So it depletes your system resources. So considering both factors, it is not a good option to keep it running. So when you have some applications like camera which uses GPS, so these kind of things should be life cycle aware. So they should know when your app is running and when it is closed. Not just when your app is closed, but even if the activity is closed, or if you have opened a second activity where camera is not visible, then you should be stopping all these functionalities. So these are all things which live model view model helps you. Okay. So using view model, you can store data, and the storage of data and the UI updation part all are life cycle aware. So the possibilities of getting a crash where we don't have the activity live is much less. So we have a view model life cycle diagram. So we could see that even if the activity is destroyed, you can see here. So even if it is destroyed, the view model lives on. So the main problem why we lost the data when the phone was rotated was when your phone is rotated, your activity gets recreated. So when it is recreated, all the data which you have stored in the activity, all the local and global variables, everything is destroyed, and once it is recreated, it will be populated with all the default data, not the one you already have. So the data is lost. So there is something we are trying to solve using Blue Model. So we have to actually some differences. So we need fragment dependency. So this is the dependency which helps us to get fragments. So we have a lazy loading option where we can get the view models. So it is from the fragment dependency, and then we have a dependency for live data. So these are the dependencies required, and then we are going to use data binding. So to enable data binding, we have to make some changes. So in the Android, so So you can have it first. So once all these are done, you can sync the Gradle files and it will download all the dependencies. Once that is done, you will be having the view model. So now what we are basically going to do is we will be shifting the count variable from activity to view model so that it sustains the rotation, which is activity regression. We don't want it to be set outside from view model, so I'm giving this private set. We have two functionalities. One is to increment and the other one is to decrement. So I'm giving two methods for each. So we have added all the functionalities. Now we have to change the activity so that it uses the view model we have created. So first one is we don't need this count variable anymore. So I'm removing it. And then we have to have a reference to the view model. So now we have the view model and we have removed the count variable. So these are all not valid anymore. So we have to change them accordingly. So we are incrementing it here. And we are to change here as well. So all the changes are done. Now we are going to understand whether the problem we faced earlier, whether is it resolved or not. If not, what we can do. If yes, so what how it happened. So I'm running the app and let's see what happens. So the build is complete. It is listed. So now we can see. So I'm trying increment and decrement. So whatever is working, always we should not break what is already working. So we should check whether that is working fine or not. So now our requirement is once the app is recreated, whether it is building again properly or not. But when I rotate it, still I can see that it is zero. So the main advantage of using view model is it has to be persistent, right? So what happened here? So I'm going to try to have a breakpoint here and try to understand what exactly happens. So I'm implementing it, and okay, so we can see something else. So now it is 6. So I'm trying to bring it back, and you can see the text as 0, but when I increment it, it becomes 7. So what exactly happened was the count variable has the data, but when your activity is recreated, the data is not sent over to the layout. So the data is persistent in the view model, but not in the activity or the layout. So there is something we have to do so that it gets reflected. So that is the next concept we are going to try to understand how we can do that. So we are going to use something called live data. So let's see how that can help us to do that. The count variable we have right now, it is a normal variable. So we are going to change it so that it becomes a live data. Okay. So I'm just renaming it because we'll see why it is taking this. We are going to use mutable live data. And the data type we have is integer. So I'm giving it here. And to access, since we are giving it as private, to access this, we need another variable. So what we are going to do here is, so this is a Kotlin getter. So we are using this to get this little live data's value. So each time I want a value, I'll be getting from this variable. So now we have an issue here because count is a mutable live data. It's not an integer or int anymore. So we have to change this accordingly. So to change the mutable live data, we'll be using dot value. So dot value is the property which holds the actual value of the mutable live data. So here the initial value we are setting it as 0, but we can change it as we require. So that is what we are going to do here now. And we will be using safe code so that it is never null. Okay. So in case it is null, so you have to make sure it is not causing any issue. Similarly for decrement, we will be using minus of. So the view model changes are done. Now we have to use the live data which we have created here. So we will be seeing how we can use that. So I'll go to main activity. So here now the problem is when we give dot count, it is actually immutable live data. It's not a integer anymore. So the advantage of using immutable live data is we can observe. So I'm going to observe it. Yeah. So you have to give context and then the table. So here we can specify what has to happen when there is any change in count variable. So as soon as count data changes, this observable will be triggered and we will be getting a callback here. So we don't have to call this anymore each time. So we can remove these two. So now we will run the app again and let's see what happens. We have a two string. So we have a count. So it should be here the data variable name is it. So we don't have to use url.count. We use it here. So this gives us the value of the live data. Rather than using the live data itself, we will be using its value. So that is what we actually require. Okay, so first things we'll make sure it is working fine. So now I have it as 6 and now I'm going to rotate it to check whether our rotation. Okay, so now when I rotate the app, you can see the 6 is still persistent. So the data is saved. And if I increment it, it is 7. So now our app is working perfectly fine. So this is a perfect counter now. So if we have any issues, so we have to check on all aspects. So we have to check on configuration changes, we have to check on rotation, we have to check various display sizes. So all these things are very important. And even when you have to check on multiple devices, so we have a lot of manufacturers of Android device, so we have to check on all those factors. So we have seen how we can use view model and live data. So the next Jetpack component which we are going to explore. So in this repo you can see, so the starter code will be the initial code and then once you have the view model, this branch will have all the changes. Third one is live data. So fourth one we are going to look into is data binding. So what can we do? So first we'll try to understand what is data binding. So data binding has a lot of advantages. So let's go to the document and see what it happens. So this is where data binding works are. So first thing is we have to change the tag in the layout. So we'll be going over the layout and we'll do that first. So this is how a data binding layout should look. So we cannot have the normal uh, root. So usually we have root as relative layout, constraint layout, or some other view component. But in this case, the tag should be always layout. So we cannot have any other tag. So this is a requirement for us to enable data binding. So it has to be done. And we can just copy the whole layout file and we can paste it here so that the same functionality is achieved. So now when you so let's see what is happening. So you can see these are all the build files which are currently existing. We have 6 build files. So now I'm going to rebuild the project because why I'm rebuilding now is data binding works on build time rather than compile. So we have to have some generated files which will be generated only when you build the project. So we are going to do that so that we get the files. Okay, so now if you go to your generated files and see, you will be seeing an extra file which is the actual. So this is the one we are going to use. So this is a build file and we will not be creating it manually. So this is created by Android when we compile the project. So we are going to now use that to see how data binding helps us. Okay? So let's go to main activity. So this is the line we'll be changing. So rather than giving set content view and directly using the layout ID, so we'll be using a different attribute here. So you can give it rated in here. So now we are going to initialize it. Yes. There are multiple ways to initialize it. You can either give activity binding and you can inflate it as such. So that is an option. There are multiple options. So now we have an instance of data binding. So using this, we can use the data binding object and so what we are going to do now is we are going to replace find view by ID. So find view by ID has a problem where it uses reflection. Reflection is a concept where it is not using the compiled time code. So reflection has a lot of disadvantages and it is not really recommended. So the problem is reflection and we are going to avoid it using data binding. Okay. So let's see what we can do. So let us we'll go for a different approach. Yeah. So now we can see how we can replace find view by ID. So when you give a data value object and you can see all the components automatically created. So this is the one which gets generated. So now if you want the button, so I would like to use increment button. So I can directly give this and we can remove all this code. So we can do this and this is how we replace find view by ID using data binding. And if we go to the docs, we have multiple advantages in using data binding. So not just find view by ID, we have a lot of things. If we go here, we can see how we can bind the data directly to the layout. So if we go here, there are a lot of options and operators. Okay, so we can give like this. So if you want to change a text, you can give in the layout XML file directly. So you can change its visibility, its color, its text size. So there are a lot of things you can do here. So these are all features which data binding process. So I'm not running it, so it will be the same app. Okay. So we will see a sample app provided by Google and how they have done. So I'll just show how the app looks. So this is Sunflower, which is an app from Google. So this is how when you open the app, it looks. So you have a My Garden tab and a plant list tab. So when you click on a plant list, you can see multiple plants. Okay, so these are all being loaded from the internet. So there is a network call being made, and all the images are being loaded. So they will be populating as such as when the loading is complete from the internet. And they have some custom components. So these are custom views, and if you click on this button, it is navigating here. So it's a very simple app. So it uses lots of uh, Jetpack components. So we'll see how they have done. So if you just go and try to understand the architecture, so they have a lot of binding adapters. So these binding adapters all are part of data binding. So you can give is gone. So you can give a boolean variable, and if it is true, then you can give all the conditions here. So if it is true, what should happen? If it is false, what should happen? So not just gone, you can change its color, text size. You can change all the attributes which you can change in the XML. Okay, and then we have these are normal adapters for the recycler views. So they have used paging library. So this is a library which helps us to use paging concept. So paging is something which we do when we have lot of data. If we have 5 to 10 data, then it's fine. We can just load it as such. But for example, when you use WhatsApp and all, you have multiple messages. So you have thousands of messages, and you don't want the app to load all the messages every time you open the app. So what happens is the loading will be done using paging. So the first time you open the app, probably the first 10 to 20 messages will be loaded, and after once you scroll, then the remaining messages will be getting loaded. So it's how it works in Facebook, Instagram. So all these social media apps use paging. It's called paging or lazy loading. So all these are similar terms. Okay. So we have a paging library. So this is useful when you have lots of data. So you have a diff callback. So diff is used for getting the difference between two list views. So when you want to make some changes in a recycler view, when you want to add something or remove something, so diff util is a very helpful util. And then you can see binding. So this is view holder binding, which you should be probably aware of. So this is a similar concept how data binding works. So the width is a Kotlin keyword. So these are all adapters. Okay. So then they have Unsplash API. So they are using retrofit to access Unsplash API, and suspend is a Kotlin specific keyword. It uses coroutine concepts. And then in this simple project, they have multiple concepts which you can learn from. So they have code to show how retrofit is used, how coroutines is used, and then we have database. So for database, the library used is called Roam database. So this is the library name. So they have given how you can create a database and how you can use it, and this is how you can preload some data. So if you want to load some data before the user does anything, so you can have a worker. So there's a concept called workers. So this is from work manager. So this uses coroutine, and you can preload a lot of data using this. So workers help you to do some background job. It uses the concept of your battery power, your network connectivity. So it uses lot of attributes, and using all these, you can schedule jobs. So this is a helpful for scheduling jobs. And then we have a custom view. So these are all the view models, and then we have something called HILT. So HILT is a dependency injection library. Dependency injection, again, when you go for a very large scale project, we cannot always add all the data manually. So we have to use some libraries which helps us to get all the data. So dependency injection is a very important concept. So When we have multiple modules, especially when we have a single module, it's much easy for us. But when we have multiple modules and we have a very large scale app, dependency injection helps us to get data from different other modules without much code. So it reduces a lot of boilerplate code. So that is an advantage. And Kotlin is promoted because it reduces boilerplate code. So Hilt again, it is built on top of a library called Dagger. So Dagger was the earlier widely adapted injection library, and now they have enhanced it to extent, and they have named the library as Hilt. Okay, so they have new concepts in Hilt. So this is how a view model is injection is done in a view model. So you are injecting the repository, and then we have a lot of utils, and so these are all the dependency injection code. So we have something called assisted injection. So this is not yet part of Hilt. So there are plans to make it part of Hilt. So the work is going on. So till it is a part of Hilt, we'll be using assisted injection. So this is a different concept and a different library. So we are using two libraries just to make sure dependency injection is working as we want. In Hilt, we have application component, activity component, fragment component. So a lot of things are there. So all these are for dependency injections. And then the whole architecture they are using is MVVM. So we have repository, we have view model, we have model. So all these are, and then for the database we have converters. So if you are using Room database, you need some converters because Room uses only the primary primitive types. So if you have some type like calendar, you cannot store it directly as such. So you need some converters. So this is the use case where we go for converters. And then we have DOA, which is basically data access object. So here we give all the query parameters. So if you would like to select some plans by and order them and remove, delete, add, all these are given here. And this is the UI code. So they have they have a library data binding, and they use UPJ tab layout. So it's very simple. UI wise, there is nothing much complex going on here. So all the libraries they are giving a sample code how libraries can be implemented. So that's it from me. So if you like the session, let me know. Like if you have some suggestion, feedback, whatever it is, you can always let me know. And I have given my LinkedIn, so you can comment.
Yeah. So thank you, Abhimanyu, for introducing us to these advanced topics. Personally, I never knew about all. I only started basic Kotlin, and yeah, I think the resources and what you told will help me and all others who are watching to get a hang of Android using Kotlin. Yeah.
I'll
So thank you all for joining us today. Uh, Please, if you guys have any questions, you can post it in the comment section. We'll try to answer them. Any question? I guess there is no more questions. Mm, Okay, guys, so we'll wrap up for today. Thank you everyone for joining us. Please, If you like the video, please give it a like. Please subscribe to our channel. And thank you, Abhimanyu, again for coming and helping us out, helping us students out.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, guys. Bye.